Hey everyone, Jim Phoenix here. On our new episode you're listening to right now of What's Kraken, we've got none other than Sarah Zammit from T&E with their brand new, soon-to-be interstellar, intergalactic, big ol' hit, Hotel Paranormal Season 2. It airs Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Pacific Time on T&E. And without any further ado, let's get cracking. Hey everyone, Jim Phoenix here. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another exciting special episode of What's Cracking with none other than Sarah Zammit from the T&E channel. Of course, Sarah is the series producer for the new hit. And believe me, I did the screening. This is such an awesome show. You guys have to see it. I love it. July 2nd, Hotel Paranormal Season 2 launches. It's got everything, spooky stories, real life, reenactments, Danny Aykroyd, dogs and cats, that's something else, but it's amazing. Sarah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for the intro. Glad you like the show. That's great to hear.
It really is, I believe, a new hit for you guys. And I know you are the series producer, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Okay, what is that? If I'm a series producer, if I want to grow up to be a series producer.
You don't have to grow up. Yeah. So it's basically you run the show, the creative and production, and make sure that you get the show completed on time and on budget, and you shepherd the creative vision of the show.
That's awesome. Now, I do understand this was done during a pandemic. Because yes. I believe we've been living this reality for the last 13 years, 5 years, too. I don't know.
Yeah, I know it's hard to tell now. Yes.
What did you change? What did you have to change because of this pandemic?
I mean, so many things. You know, we finished season 1 and it went into post-production in the pandemic. We actually started the research for season 2 before the pandemic, so that we had to put that on hold. And then to finish season 1, we were working with Dan Aykroyd, as you mentioned, and so we had to work not only with him remotely and record remotely, but also work in post-production. So all of the editing and finishing the show, all of that had to happen remotely. And then, of course, as we got into season 2, you know, anything from choosing stories were, you know, some of them were impacted by where we could film. You know, there were stories we couldn't do because it just wouldn't make sense in terms of getting people to where we were filming. I'm very, I don't feel like we compromised in any way whatsoever. I couldn't be more thrilled with the stories that we have this year. So I'm very happy with that. Yeah. Thank you. And so, you know, then obviously, you know, when we're shooting, safety first and foremost. And so that we had to make a lot of adjustments in order to keep people safe. And I mean, they're too numerous to mention, but it was a very big shift, you know, but I have to say, there's such a great team of people working on this series that they just went above and beyond. And we were able to do the show in the pandemic, and I think do it successfully. So it's really a tribute to the team.
And it shows. And the final product really does show. If I didn't know that this was done, if I wasn't living during this time, you know, I'm like, wow, this is just a great show, period. Nothing, we don't see any of the quibbles that some other shows have. Everything is smooth and ironed out. It's amazingly smooth. And I know
that's great.
Yeah, I know. And Dan Aykroyd did it as a kind of remote recording. I remember Sean Connery did Highlander voiceovers in his bathroom. You know, so this has been a long time coming.
Works. Yes,
right?
It's not new. Yes, absolutely. And we, you know, luckily that we live in the time where that's all possible and that there's the know-how, right? But I think that's really what we set out to do at the beginning was, you know, to really make a show that didn't have, you know, any footprint of, you know, obviously all of the behind the scenes, putting the pandemic front and center, right. But hopefully, you know, not being on screen.
Would you keep anything from, you know, what did you learn during the pandemic that you're going to keep for the future?
That's a good question. Really, I mean, you know, I guess the one thing is you know, what we can do remotely and what we can't do, and I think, you know, it's just more than things that we wouldn't get rid of. It's just there's a little bit more in the toolkit, if you want to put it that way. Like, right. There are options now that, you know, there's pros and cons to some of the things that we did in the pandemic, and it's great to be in the room with the interviewee, but you don't have to do that. So it's just there's a bit more option about how to work. All of us were grateful to be working, period. And then post pandemic, it'll be interesting just to see what kind of stays. But I just think there's more options.
That's amazing. And this actually brings me into the second part. Because of the pandemic, you said your research team had to put some stuff on pause. What's the usual research route for any of the stories being pitched? Like, I have a haunted house, or a hotel.
Yeah, I mean, the associate producers on the show are amazing, and they have, they're skilled researchers. They have established networks, and they know where to find stories. They're very knowledgeable about the subject matter. They're very great at interviewing people. So the process is that they find stories, and we have meetings and kind of go over the stories, and obviously there's a bit of a format to the show. So mostly it's about, how many encounters one might have, so that we can do the stories justice and have an hour of television. But so that's the process that we go through them. And there's a number of things that we're looking at. And like I said, one of them was where people are this season, just so that we couldn't just travel everywhere. So that we had to make sure that the stories we've sort of worked in hubs, and so that people had to be willing to, or close enough to get to those hubs. And I'm always interested in new kind of, I'm always saying, I'm interested in new kinds of experiences that people have. And, these kind of came to us this season of it was the hard work of the associate producers, but there was really, often in the interviews where I was saying to people, I hadn't heard, I've never heard anyone describe that kind of paranormal encounter. I hadn't heard them explain it in that way, and sort of the depth and range of stories I got really excited about this year.
Yeah, from what I saw, it does span a bit. And that's another question that I like how you're kind of leads into it.
Yeah.
You present these as true, and I'm what is known as a skeptic in the world. So it's interesting because the vetting, I get you have to vet it and you have to have the locations and stuff like that. But do you also vet as a journalistic method? Meaning, are these the true stories, or is there someone kind of spinning a yarn?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm less interested in, I'm not myth busting or anything. I'm just sort of, I'm interested in what people say they believe, and, we don't set out to say, okay, prove it to me. We set out to say, I believe you, and I really want to hear your story, and I really want to honor your story. Yeah. And, and what I'm most interested in is, I really mind them. I really want to know. It's not just, okay, tell me as quickly as possible and we're going to put it on screen. It's let's get into it. So, there's always a moment in an interview where someone goes, oh, I haven't thought about this for a long time. Or, oh, I just, I remember this, or pausing, or when you can feel that the person is reliving what they experienced, So I don't leave it up to, I don't approach it in that kind of way of I'm not going to fact check someone's personal experience when they were alone like that. It's more about, what happened and how did that affect you and how did that change you, and how, what happened to this particular person say about the world that we live in. What does happen after we die? What does, what is the what happens to our loved ones? Is there a way to reach out to the afterlife? I think these are, pretty compelling questions. So I was really grateful actually this season to, people really took the time and actually sometimes shared more than I think even they were thinking that they would. So I think that makes for good storytelling, and it's really up to the viewer. It's for skeptics and believers. Everybody will come at it from a different perspective. There's no such thing as one type of skeptic, or even one type of believer. So it's really a show for everyone.
No, and it really is, and that's why I think I might have said that in my review. It really is a show for everyone. It's even a show for people I want to go there for vacation. That's a wonderful idea.
Oh, well, that's great. That's great. Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, it's a large audience. Now you brought up the giving the person their truth, giving them the opportunity to explain what it is, and just taking the person's story, like their narrative, right?
Yeah.
And how it, especially the what happens when we pass on with their truth. And sometimes we have people who are somewhat marginalized on being able to tell their story. What impact has anyone said afterwards? Like, thank you for letting me say my story, or thank you very much for this, or that was, what kind of relief?
Yeah, I mean, we've had feedback from people that were really happy. One story in season one where we portrayed a woman's father and an experience that they had together, and her father had passed away, and so she felt very happy to see her father. But I think that by and large, with paranormal shows, with these 2 seasons of Hotel Paranormal, is that people make the decision before. It's really am I gonna, because in some cases people say, oh, people are gonna think I'm crazy, or my job doesn't know, and there is a sense of risk in to a certain extent. But I think this is very different, that people are willingly coming to the interview, feeling prepared to share their story. I think we've had a few people say, I didn't expect to share that much, and certainly I followed up with people, are you sure you want to reveal this or X, Y, and Z, and people have been happy to participate, so far. So I think there's not the sense of risk for anyone. But so I think it's been a positive experience from all of the feedback that we've received. People are ready to tell these types of stories.
Absolutely. It seems like I've seen, and I won't spoil it anyone, but there's one particular I'm thinking about on the first episode. And the gentleman just seems so relieved to talk about someone who takes him seriously. You can just see the relief on his face.
Yeah,
as he's saying.
And I think that makes sense. I mean, it's we're talking about the unknown, we're talking about the unexplainables. In some cases, we're talking about the unseen. We're talking about things that can't be proven, and we're talking about things that you can't put in a box and bring to someone and show them. You can't bring them back and say, like, look, do you see what happened? So, there's a little bit of vulnerability of like, it really is up to, you're putting it out in the world, and then people can believe or disbelieve. So I think, the job of the show is to entertain, but the job of the show is also to really present these as truths, which I feel that the storytellers allow us in, and that's kind of the takeaway. But to accept that there are questions raised by the experiences that these people have, and I think that's what I hope that people take away, is more of a curiosity about the paranormal and appreciation for the stories, and then a willingness to kind of entertain, there's things that we don't know in life, and to be open to trying to find out answers about what we can experience as human beings on this planet.
Yeah, and I think your show Hotel Paranormal, which starts again July 2nd on T&E, I believe that's a perfect vehicle, because you do have the person's story, but you also have the incredibly well done reenactments. I mean, I don't know if you guys are using the same departments for all your series, but your special effects and your acting and everything in the reenactment parts especially are just so phenomenally well done.
Oh, that's great. I mean, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's truly, it's the team, and it is the team. There were a lot of people from season one that came on to season two, and the key creatives on the show are excellent. And, and it's a team sport making TV. And so I'm very fortunate with the people that I work with.
And it shows, because when you take pride, and everything becomes so much better. And again, Hotel Paranormal on T&E, July 2nd. If you haven't seen the show, if you haven't seen the first season, catch up. But if you need to jump on in, do so. It's a smooth ride. It's small. You can break it down. You have to watch the whole thing. You can watch a bit at a time. The stories will move you. The reenactments will scare you. It is something for everyone, all ages, I believe. Of course, I don't have any kids, so I can't speak for your kids. If you have kids, make those choices yourselves. But it's an all ages expense. It can be for the people who get afraid of anything, and to the true horror people going, no, that's not it. It really does make you think. And it's personal stories. They connect. They hit. They absolutely hit. And I just want to say thank you very much, Sarah, for your time. And I can't wait for the full season.
Well, thanks, Jim. I really enjoyed speaking with you today. Thanks so much for taking the time and for your interest in the show. It was great chatting.
And remember, you can go to Hotel Paranormal yourself. Check it out. It's a spooky show. It's got some feels with it. Every Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time / Pacific Time on TNE. Check it out.